Welcome to Turkish TV series. Today I bring you the list that many of you have been asking me for a long time, the 15 best Turkish romance series of all time. This is not just any list. I am talking about the productions that marked entire generations of viewers around the world. Those stories that steal your sleep, that make you cancel plans, and that when they end, leave a void no other series can fill. Before we get started, it would mean a lot to me if you took a moment to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your kind support. Number 15. Love Doesn't Understand Words. Unfortunately, I have to inform you that this production was the one that launched Hande Erçel and Burak Deniz to stardom, and yet it lasted only 31 episodes before the ratings sent it to the archive. Love Doesn't Understand Words kicked off in 2016 with a premise that you know works wonderfully in Turkey. A girl from the provinces arrives in Istanbul desperately looking for work, or her mom sends her back to the village to marry someone she doesn't even know. Through a case of mistaken identity, Hayat lands a job as the personal assistant of the gorgeous and icy Murat Sarsılmaz, heir to a textile empire. He is rigid, perfectionist, incapable of showing emotions. She is pure chaos with a smile, and from the very first episode, the chemistry between the leads is so genuine that you become an accomplice to that story, even if you know exactly how it ends. That said, let's be honest. The final episodes lose momentum. The script stretches the situations to the limit, and what felt fresh at the start begins to wear thin. The Turkish audience noticed and the numbers dropped. But if what you are looking for is a light, romantic comedy full of stolen glances and sweet moments, this production more than delivers in its first half. It reached over 30 countries for a reason. If you stick with it from the beginning, what comes next is worth it. Number 14. Love for Rent. Listen to me very carefully because this is one of the most entertaining Turkish romantic comedies ever made. Love for Rent arrived in 2015 with a delicious premise. Daphne, a young waitress who supports her family on her own, accepts the most absurd deal of her life. Ömer's Aunt Ömer, being an arrogant, cold businessman who does not believe in love, hires her specifically to pretend to be his girlfriend, fall for him, and lead him to the altar. The goal was to save a family business. What nobody expected, of course, was that along the way things would get complicated in ways no one planned. Elçin Sengu and Barış Arduç have a chemistry very few Turkish couples have managed to equal. They are funny, believable, and when the story gets serious, they can carry that too. That said, the second season has its ups and downs. There are episodes where the plot stretches unnecessarily, and the relationship between the leads goes in circles that get a little frustrating. I personally wanted to shake the screen at certain points, but when this production is at its best, it is pure joy. It won the Golden Butterfly Award for Best Comedy, and that is no coincidence. 69 episodes that will make you laugh more than you expect. Number 13. A Peculiar Love. Pay close attention to this one because it is a gem that many people overlooked. A Peculiar Love arrived in 2019 with a premise that sounds like 1,000 stories you already know, a forced marriage between two people who cannot stand each other. But the execution is what makes the difference. Ace works at the Yigator family factory. She is smart, has a good heart, and lives crushed under the weight of her two brothers. Kerem, played by Kagler Ertugrul, is the heir of the business, a well-known heartthrob and confirmed womanizer. When circumstances force them to marry, neither of them is happy with the arrangement. What follows is a genuinely hilarious romantic comedy, with moments of jealousy, misunderstandings, and that tension between two people pretending not to care while everyone around them already knows. The chemistry between Ertugrul and Berku Özberk is so natural that at times it feels like they are not acting at all. Now, the ending did not fully satisfy audiences. The final episodes rushed through some resolutions, and there are viewers who felt they deserved more closure. I understand that, and I share it a little. But the experience of watching Kerem and Ayse fall in love, chapter by chapter, without either wanting to admit it, is one of the most entertaining the genre has produced in years. The ending of this story will leave you speechless. Number 12. Full Moon. For my taste, this series has one of the most irresistible openings in the genre. Full Moon arrived in 2017 with Can Yaman and Özgür Gürel, and from the very first episode, it establishes a dynamic that hooks you. Nazli is a gastronomy student who urgently needs work and agrees to take a job as a private chef at the home of Ferit Aslan, a rich, handsome, and deeply fussy businessman who basically has to be tolerated. The condition: prepare dinner and disappear before he gets home. What seems simple gets complicated in comedic and romantic ways nobody expected. Let's be honest, the series has a notable weakness. The character of Nazli is not always well written, and there are emotional moments where the performance does not quite match. The love triangle episodes feel a little forced. But Can Yaman as Ferit Aslan is a performance that deserves recognition, and the relationship between the leads when it finally opens up gains layers that compensate for the script's stumbles. 26 focused episodes, no unnecessary filler, one of the greats of the genre in its year. Number 11, Gulsamal. You know what the worst part is? That this production arrived with only 11 episodes and left you wanting so much more. Gulsamal premiered in 2023 with Murat Unalmış in the lead role, and from the very first minute, it is clear this is not a light romantic comedy. The story starts 3 decades earlier in Bursa, where a mother abandons her 2 young sons for a love she could not resist. That abandonment turns little Gulsamal into a monster of resentment. When he returns to Bursa as an adult, rich and powerful, his only goal is to destroy the mother who cursed him. The problem is that along the way, he crosses paths with Deva, the girl that woman adopted, and what begins as pure hatred starts transforming into something Gulsamal does not know how to handle. The performance by Unalmış is extraordinary, one of the finest pieces of work Turkish screens have produced in recent years. The honest critique: 11 episodes are not enough for a plot this dense. There are arcs that feel incomplete, resolutions that deserved more time, but the intensity of every chapter more than compensates. If you are looking for something that truly shakes you, Gulsamal is the answer. I finished it in 2 days. Now you know. Number 10. What is Fatmagul's fault? This series has already been canonized as one of the greats, without question. What is Fatmagul's fault? Arrived in 2010 and tackled something very few Turkish productions had dared to do with that depth: a portrait of rape and its devastating consequences, told from the victim's perspective. Fatmagul is a humble girl from a coastal village who is assaulted by 4 wealthy young men during a drunken night. To protect the guilty, the family of one of them pressures her into marrying Karim, the only one who was present but did not participate. What begins as a sentence transforms, episode by episode, into a story of resistance, dignity, and a love no one expected. Barinsat delivers the performance of her life. Engin Akyurek as Kerem builds one of the most complex male characters the genre has produced. The critique I have to make is this: 80 episodes is a lot, and there are stretches in the second season where the pace falters and subplots distract from the main story. But when this production is focused, it is devastating. A story that is not easily forgotten. Number 9. Brave and Beautiful. Nobody is talking about this, but Brave and Beautiful is one of the most underrated series in all of Turkish television. It premiered in 2016 and brought together Kıvanç Tatlıtuğ and Tuba Büyüküstün, 2 top-tier stars who had already proven their weight separately. The plot is one that hooks you from the first scene. Caesar returns to the town of Korludag with a meticulously designed plan of revenge against the man who destroyed his family. What he had not calculated was that along the way he would save the life of Suhan, the daughter of precisely the man he wants to destroy. The tension between vengeance and genuine love holds the entire series together with an uncommon solidity. That said, around episode 23, the script hits a rough patch. There are narrative decisions that do not convince, and some scenes feel like filler. I acknowledge that because it frustrated me when I watched it. But Tatlıtuğ's performance as Caesar is one of the finest of his career, and the ending delivers a satisfaction very few series achieve. It was nominated for the International Emmy Awards in 2018. That is not a small thing. Number 8. Black and White Love. Here is where things get interesting. Black and White Love arrived in 2017 with a premise that sounds like madness. What happens when the woman who saves lives is captured by the man who takes them? Ferhat is a hitman who works for his uncle, the patriarch of a criminal family. Asli is a young, idealistic neurosurgeon who by mistake becomes a witness to a crime. To silence her, Ferhat gives her 2 options: die or marry him. From that starting point, this series builds one of the most psychologically complex relationships Turkish drama has ever produced. Ibrahim Selikol as Ferhat is absolutely magnetic, a character with layers that are revealed in an impeccable way. The negative that I cannot ignore, from episode 25 onward, Ferhat's character undergoes a change that many viewers, myself included, found inconsistent with everything that had been built. It feels like a script decision that somewhat betrays the character, but what comes before that is some of the finest work Turkish screens have produced. A production that shakes you and makes you think far more than you expected from a romantic drama. Number 7. Love is in the Air. I think we all know the caliber of this show. Love is in the Air arrived in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic and became the biggest global phenomenon Turkish television had seen in years. Hande Erçel and Kerem Bürsin play Ida and Serkan, two people who should hate each other and who end up pretending to be a couple, which of course results in exactly what everyone expects. Ida is a florist who dreams of earning her architecture degree and loses her scholarship directly because of the arrogant and wealthy Serkan Bolat. He, to save face with his ex, convinces her to pretend to be his fiancée. What follows is pure chemistry. That said, we need to talk about episodes 29 through 36 of the first season. The story loses the rhythm that had made it so addictive. Serkan goes through his cancer and amnesia arc, and the character changes so much that it feels like watching a different series. I say that with respect, but also with honesty. The second season recovers some of the magic, but never fully. However, the best moments of this show are the kind you do not forget. 200 million people cannot be wrong. Number 6. Forbidden Love. I don't dare call this production a simple soap opera because that would be unfair to what it represents. Forbidden Love arrived in 2008 and changed forever the way the world looked at Turkish television. Based on the classic novel by Halit Ziya Usakligil, the story takes the viewer inside a privileged mansion overlooking the Bosphorus, where Bitter, a young and impulsive beauty, makes the mistake of marrying Adnan, a much older widower, in search of status. What she did not calculate was that living in that same mansion was Behlul, Adnan's nephew, and that between them, something would be born that neither of them was able to control. Baran Saat and Kıvanç Tatlıtuğ deliver performances that still define them today. The legitimate critique is this: 79 episodes, several stretches of the second season of which feel repetitive, and secondary subplots that dilute the intensity of the central conflict. But the ending of this production is one of the most remembered in the history of the genre. It was broadcast in over 50 countries and remains an essential reference. One of the greats, without question. Number 5. Daydreamer. Watch out for this series because what Ken Yaman and Demet Özdemir built together here is something Turkish television has rarely managed to repeat. Daydreamer arrived in 2018 with the story of Sanem, a girl from a working-class neighborhood in Istanbul who dreams of being a writer and who, to avoid an arranged marriage set up by her parents, ends up working at an advertising agency where she meets Can Divot, a world-renowned photographer who returns from his adventures to save the struggling family business. The chemistry between both actors is so spontaneous, so genuine, that in Italy, the series broke audience records with over 3 million viewers per episode, and for good reason. However, it must be said, the episodes from the 40s onward lose the freshness that characterized the first half. Sanem's neighborhood and its comedic secondary characters start to wear thin, and the script stretches the romantic resolution longer than necessary. I had to pause during that stretch, I'll admit it. But what comes before that is some of the finest romantic comedy Turkey has ever exported to the world. The ending of this story will leave you with a smile that lasts for days. Number 4. Medcezir. It makes no sense how gripping this production is when on paper it sounds like something you have already seen. Medcezir arrived in 2013 as an adaptation of The O.C., the American series, and Çağatay Ulusoy became Yaman Koper, a young man from a dangerous Istanbul neighborhood who ends up adopted by a high society family and discovers that money solves none of what truly matters. The romance with Mira, the eldest daughter of that family, has layers the American original never had. Here the class divide is not decorative, it is the heart of every conflict. Serenay Sarıkaya as Mira is brilliant, and the secondary couple of Mert and Eylül is so well done that some fans prefer them over the leads. What must be criticized without reservation? 77 episodes is a lot for a story of this nature. The second season brings in characters and subplots that feel forced, and some episodes in the middle stretch feel like pure filler. I felt it myself. But when Medcezir is at its best, it is first-class television. Argentina and Chile received it as a revelation, and rightfully so. Number 3. Kurt Sayet and Sura. This one hurt my soul because rarely do love and history blend this way. Kurt Sayet and Sura arrived in 2014 based on a true story, the autobiographical novel by Nermin Bezmen about her own grandfather. Ivan Tatlıtuğ portrays Kurt Sayet, a military officer of Turkish Tatar origin from Crimea who at a ball in St. Petersburg meets Sura, the daughter of Russian nobility, and falls in love with her with an intensity that defies every obstacle. But the world conspires against them. World War I, the Russian Revolution, the fall of the Ottoman Empire, everything conspires to separate two people who genuinely love each other. What sets this production apart from any other on this list is its historical honesty and its narrative courage. Not everything ends the way you want, and that is precisely what makes it great. The fair critique. The central episodes have moments where the pace slows down, and there are supporting characters who do not reach the level of the rest of the cast. But Tatlıtuğ and Farah Zeynep Abdullah have a chemistry that comes through the screen. One of the most beautiful this country has ever produced. Number 2. Endless Love. I won't lie to you, this one hit me hard. Endless Love arrived in 2015 and became something very few productions manage, a legend while it was still on the air. Kemal is a mining engineering student who does not believe in miracles. Nihan is the daughter of a wealthy family living in a completely different social dimension. They meet through a bus ticket, and in that instant, everything changes. But life has other plans. Nihan is pressured by her family to marry Emir Kosgwaglu, a businessman obsessed with her who uses the darkest secret of the Sezin family as blackmail. Burak Osivit built in Kemal, one of the most beloved male characters in the history of the genre. This series won the International Emmy in 2017, the first Turkish production ever to do so. Something must be acknowledged. Some stretches of the second season feel excessive, and the story of Kemal and Nihan goes around so many times that there are moments of genuine frustration. I paused it several times myself. But the music, the cinematography, and the chemistry between the leads are on another level entirely. Nearly 4 million people watched the finale. That is not up for debate. Number 1. The Protector. Listen to me carefully. The Protector didn't reach number 1 on this ranking by accident. It is the first original Turkish series that Netflix produced, and with it, the platform proved that Turkey had everything it needed to compete with world-class productions. The story follows Hakan, a young antique shop seller in Istanbul's Grand Bazaar, living a completely ordinary life. Everything changes when he discovers that he belongs to a secret, ancient order whose purpose is to protect Istanbul from the immortals, ageless beings with superhuman powers who have been trying to destroy the city for centuries. Hakan has no training, no experience, and clearly doesn't want the job, but destiny doesn't negotiate. What makes this production great is the combination of Ottoman mythology, contemporary Istanbul, and top-tier action. The entire city becomes a character. The minarets, the Bosphorus, the bazaar, the historic alleyways. The series has 4 seasons, and that is sometimes a problem. The first season is brilliant. The second maintains the level. The third and fourth, however, show clear signs that the story was stretched beyond what the original premise could support, with some plot arcs that feel redundant and character decisions that frustrated more than one viewer, myself included. Even so, as a whole, The Protector is a pioneering work that opened the door to all the Turkish productions that followed on Netflix. I finished it in under a week. Now you know. And that is all for today, my people. I hope this journey brought back memories of those sleepless nights that only Turkish series know how to cause. If you have already watched some of these and want to tell me which one was your favorite, I am reading the comments, because that is what we are here for. And if there is one you feel deserved to be on this list and is not, let me know that too. Do not forget to leave your like on the video and share it with that friend who still has not discovered the world of Turkish series. See you in the next video. Take care.